and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center and delighted that Allison joined us all the way from Chicago with her fantastic movie Essentials. Let's take a little clip.
Their scaled-back environmental regulation, and the Trump administration is planning to withdraw from the nuclear arms agreement with Iran. America is increasingly alienated from our global allies. But on the bright side, with COVID-19 raging, random sexual assaults have significantly declined.
Nice.
And now, an excerpt from Grieg's Piano Concerto.
Allison, thank you for coming here and being here, and thank you for bringing your film to us so much.
Thank you for having me.
For those that haven't seen your film, tell us a brief synopsis.
Sure. So it's about two people who are experiencing the beginning of lockdown based in Chicago, and run into each other and have like what would probably ordinarily be a passing interaction that just continues to get extended through them both looking for a connection for different reasons, and then it's just about like what they find in that interaction.
It's so good and well acted, so well done in front of camera and behind the camera. Now, obviously, this is an inspiration from a story that we all kind of experienced, and I love that you made a story about those kind of awkward first interactions, like post-pandemic. We all felt strange and weird. But in terms of like making this story for you personally and where it was inspired from, when was the moment when you were like, I want to make a movie about this?
I really wanted, I struggled with whether I should make it actually pandemic-based or not. Like, I understand that it is going to turn it could turn someone off of watching it because it's pandemic-based, and I totally respect that. Like, everyone's doing their own thing to, move along and all of that. But at the end of the day, I really did want to make something that embraced the circumstances of the pandemic, but made something that had a lot of enduring themes. It just felt really important to create something that explored the really, like, just a lot of mixed emotions a lot of people have been feeling that were experienced in a different way because of the isolation that most people were experiencing, if that makes sense. Like, it brought out of all of us different needs, or it's heightened certain emotions, or like if you were already isolated, it heightened that, or if you were, super social and then that was cut off, what does that do to you? So just a very interesting time for a lot of people, a really difficult time, but I think there's a lot of beauty in getting to connect with someone in a new way through altered circumstances.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was sort of important to me.
I'm so glad you made this film, because I think we all, in different ways, altered or changed or enhanced or withdraw, whatever it is, we all dealt with it differently, and I love that like this was like an interchange of a moment in time between two people, and I think as well how we address people, how we were going through things, like your particular character, goodness me, carrying those grocery bags and just even the mundane things of life, and how extra difficult you didn't know how to be. How was it, like, obviously in deciding in terms of like making the project, like writing, directing, etc., and then being in it, how was that dynamic for you?
Very good question. I wasn't sure who I would cast in that role, and then I was talking to my co-star on a Zoom, and I was like, would you be his name is Austin Pendleton. He's an incredible actor, and he's also a writer and director, but he was very clear. He was like, I'm an actor with you. Like, I trust you. Like, I don't need to weigh in these other regards. So when we were talking, I was like, would you be willing to read with other actors and stuff? And he said, knock it off, Allison. Just cast yourself. And I was like, okay, because I did want to be in it, but I was, a little nervous about taking on acting, directing, writing, lead producing, and all these things. So once I decided to cast myself, I adapted some of the writing around myself, and I did the same for Austin. When I originally wrote it, the male character was like in his 50s or 60s. That's just how I pictured it. And then once I cast Austin, it just felt very natural. Like, okay, this changes the dynamics, the gender dynamics a little bit. And I just sort of embraced it for us, which I think is a really fun process of like, oh wow, like we're saying these lines. It was really fun.
Firstly, I am just super impressed that you just kind of made this story you know those kind of, the conversations where they overextend themselves and then you kind of move into that like nervous territory of just like, just spewing dialogue. I've been there, I've been on the receiving end, we've all been there. And I love that you kind of went there with the writing. Was that like something, because I just love that we kind of forgot how to be from post-pandemic, but we've also sometimes don't know when this interaction may happen again, and we can go into that like weird territory. You just delivered it in such a great way.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, because in a short film, or really any film, you don't want to overstay your welcome.
Yeah.
You want to cut things down. If 3 beats can be one, make it one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of the lesson. But at the same time, for a film like this, and Austin and I talked about this as well. Like, one of the things that the delivery of the film is riding on is that we believe that these people are prolonging the moment for more profound reasons than what they're talking about at moments. So it's like they're making excuses to say this. They say goodbye, multiple times, and it's like that vulnerability of like I don't know if you're done with this. Am I done with this? I'm not done with this. Are you? So like they're both trying to please and take care of each other.
Yeah.
And I think that those moments are so sensitive, and like, I think the subtext of it, like what they're saying with their body language, like all of those things that I experience, like I'm from the Midwest, and we're referred to sometimes as Chicago is like the biggest small town in the world.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I know nonverbal communication pretty well, and it's like we do rely on that a lot, because a lot of conversations do revolve around the mundane, the vacuous, and so it's like when that can give way to something that is actually deeply meaningful, and contains all this range of emotion that we didn't know we wanted to share with a complete stranger, then getting out of that, it's like, how do you get out of that in a respectful way?
Yeah.
And a lot of that is non-direct.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I think as well, like it's there's moments, and we all have those moments in our daily life where we might interact with someone crossing the street or this, and just being a good human, do you know what I mean? Like just actually delivering humanity from each other was just a lovely element to see on camera as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
What was the biggest challenge in making this project?
I think any writer, director, actor can relate to some of this, where it's like you want to build a team that you trust. That's absolutely like the thing that's going to enable it is like, having a first AC who's extremely focused, having a camera team, an entire camera team, a DP that you've pre-discussed everything you can so that you can play in the moment in the most effective, efficient way.
Yeah.
Having an AD that you can, go to and say, like, this is how I'm feeling, like, what do you think about time? Like, do we have time for this? Like, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah.
And just having people watch monitor, especially if you don't have time to watch every take. Also, as an actor, you don't really want to be watching all of your takes. Like, we don't, like, if you were directing an actor who wasn't producing, directing, whatever, you would never be like, oh, come check, see how your hair looks. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
See how you, that awkward, stutter that you had. Like, do you like that? Like, you would never do that. So it's a really strange line between like, what do I want to take into consideration while I'm being in the moment with my co-star?
Absolutely.
So I feel like the biggest challenge is essentially like figuring out the lines of responsibility ahead of time and then on set.
Yeah.
So that you could, really at the end of the day, so that when you're acting, you can really act. And that was
Absolutely.
like, I think that I feel that we pulled that off. Very proud of my team. Very grateful to my team. And that was like one of the most fun parts of the entire process, just being in the moment with Austin.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, did a great job, so well
Thank
done,
you.
honestly.
Thank you.
What is the audience? I mean, we loved having your film at NewFilmmakers LA. What's it been like having your film in front of an audience, particularly a film that kind of relates to when we weren't even doing this? Like, how has it been for you celebrating your film essentials?
That's a great question. I think with each quarter, with each year that passes since the initial lockdown, the film means something a little different to people. Like, I've had a lot of people say like, oh my God, that reminds me of like how grateful I am and should be about the fact that interactions are normal, and I'm, normal again, with disclaimers and stuff. But yeah, I feel like it has been amazing getting to see it in different cities, and I think it is a love letter to big cities, because I feel especially big misunderstood cities. And just like, I got as specific as possible to Chicago because I wanted it to feel like it really, and it was made there. It was made by a Chicagoan, but I wanted to make it feel really specific. And then my hope was that it could translate to other big cities that, you know, have reputations and things like that. Because when you are in a big city and you have like I guess, incidental interaction with a stranger, it'll mean more to you, or maybe something different, perhaps, maybe not more, but different to you than if you do live in a very small town where you kind of are very familiar with everyone that you're going to see throughout the day.
Well, Chicago's a very special city, and I've definitely had some lovely interactions, you know, there myself, and I think that is so great to have that sort of, you know, you can have that small town vibe where you say hello to people just to be polite and kind, you know, or have moments with people, even in big cities. But no, you really did a great testament to that, and so I think that becomes universal, you know, but you pinpointed it in the Love of Chicago, which is great.
Thank you so much.
What is next for you?
I really like working in I guess a tonal bandwidth of dramedy to absurd and surreal comedy. So Essentials very much lives in the dramedy territory. I wanted to make that as grounded as possible, and like then the I guess I feel like a feeling of dreaminess between the characters that arises from how defamiliarizing and special it was to have an in-person interaction with someone at that time in their lives. But I also work in stuff that's just more bombastic and all over the place. As long as it has a heart, I really want to go like as goofy as possible in some context. So I'm going to be making at least one, possibly two more short films, somewhere in the dramedy to absurd or surreal comedy space. And I also have 3 features that I'm revising that are, I guess they could be higher budget, they could be lower budget, depends how I revise them and like kind of what becomes available. But those are all comedies and pretty absurd. And then the range, I like playing with genre and tone quite a bit.
I love it.
Like Essentials is very much a dramedy, like I said, but very interested in the tonal shift that the characters experience toward the center of it. And then, I just take that to the next level with comedy stuff, like more overt comedy stuff that I do. So I have a few features, a couple of shorts that I'll be making, and very excited to kind of move into longer form material.
I mean, goodness me, a lot of amazing storytelling coming up, which is great. And I love that you know, again, playing with genre. I think there's something so wonderful when you can kind of cross over and just also take people on a journey of evolvement. Like you picked a moment in time, and both of those characters evolved as human beings, just like in everyday life, you know. And I think, you know, I don't take this for granted that we're sitting here right now, doing this in person, you know, having this moment. So you know, it's really special. Obviously in your career thus far is, I mean, obviously writer, director, actor in this particular production. Like, do you have any advice for anyone else out there that what you kind of go by as a creative person?
Oh, what I go by? That's a work in progress. Like, absolutely. Like, I feel like I learn so much with every set that I like work on, or that's my own set. Like, it's very much a work in progress. I feel like there is definitely a lot of pressure to make stuff that's commercial, and I'm actually genuinely interested in like that line of like how can I make this commercial enough to like get funding, you know, and like have an audience go see it and make the money back and like things like that. Like those are conversations I'm starting to get excited about. But you know, how can I make it that, but also have it like essentially like do what I want it to do as a story, you know, and like also at least also serve the audience that like I'm most excited to serve. I think those conversations are very interesting. I'm just starting to really like have them. But I think at the end of the day, like no matter what happens with the project, like I've never made something that I just wanted to do like, oh, this is a stepping stone, or this is like to show that I can do this, or this is like what the market wants, or this is what I think will be hot in like 5 years, or like, and I totally respect if someone does that, because like this industry is so hard. So like any way you can find a way to get to the next level, like by all means. And I can't speak to what I'll do in the future, but I just think like, especially when you're building your voice and trying things out, like I have absolutely no regrets about telling stories that at the end of the day, like I really, really, really wanted to make.
Yeah.
So I could watch them, and so people I was
Absolutely.
imagining could watch them and feel more connected and self-possessed and like inspired and things like that. So
Oh, wow,
I think
it's amazing.
that's something I would recommend is just like, what are you really, really excited to do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. A story you're excited about. Well, I love that you just even mentioned about work in progress. Like, you know,
Yeah.
again, we're all just human beings in work in progress, and even in this field as well. But you have an epitome of humbleness as well. If you could feel it on this set, you really do. So, and I think
Thank
that's
you.
such an important element to have as
Thank
any
you.
person. So, thank you. But
Thank you.
just really appreciate Allison for coming. Welcome to the New
Thank you.
Filmmakers
Thank
LA
you so
family.
much.
We're so glad you brought Essentials to us, and everyone should watch it because you'll just remind that it's human beings and just having beautiful moments with interactions, no matter how they're 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like how important they are. But thank you very much for bringing Essentials.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had a really awesome time with New Filmmakers.
Thank
So
you. Allison, everybody.